Hello, my name is Father Lawrence Jagfeld. I am a Franciscan friar of the Sacred Heart Province, headquartered in St. Louis, Missouri, and I am also the administrator of CUSA, an apostolate of persons with chronic illness and/or disability. On this 33rd Sunday of Ordinary Time, we continue to hear Jesus preach through the words of the Gospel of St. Luke. While some people were speaking about how the temple was adorned with costly stones and votive offerings, Jesus said, "All that you see here, the days will come when there will not be left a stone upon another stone that will not be thrown down." Then they asked him, "Teacher, when will this happen? And what sign will there be when all these things are about to happen?" He answered, "See that you are not deceived. For many will come in my name, saying, 'I am he,' and the time has come. Do not follow them. When you hear of wars and insurrections, do not be terrified, for such things must happen first. But it will not immediately be the end." Then he said to them, "Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be powerful earthquakes, famines, and plagues from place to place, with awesome sights and mighty signs will come from the sky. Before all this happens, however, they will seize and persecute you. They will hand you over to the synagogues and to prisons, and they will have you led before kings and governors because of my name. It will lead to your giving testimony. Remember, you are not to prepare your defense beforehand, for I myself will give you a wisdom in speaking, that all your adversaries will be powerless to resist or refute. You will even be handed over by parents, brothers, relatives, and friends, and they will put some of you to death. You will be hated by all because of my name, but not a hair on your head will be destroyed. By your perseverance, you will secure your lives." By now, we should all be used to the fact that when we come to these last Sundays of the liturgical year, indeed, as we move into the next liturgical year with the first Sunday of Advent, this Sunday and the first Sunday of Advent always present us with something that we call apocalyptic literature. That will be interrupted a little bit next week as we celebrate the feast of Christ the King. But this 33rd Sunday and then the first Sunday of Advent are always apocalyptic in nature. So it's important for us to, first of all, come to an understanding of what apocalyptic literature is all about. Some people look at this kind of literature and they see in it a type of prophesying or predicting what will happen at the end. But if we pay close attention to the literature that is called apocalyptic, we will see that those who are the authors of this literature are simply reporting what is already going on. Now, we have Jesus here predicting the end or the destruction of the temple. But let's remember that this gospel was written about the year 80 AD, maybe as late as 85 AD. The temple was destroyed in 76 AD, at least for perhaps as many as 9 years before the gospel was written. So Luke is commenting on what has already happened. Now, there is no doubt about the fact that Jesus did predict the destruction of the temple. That, in fact, is one of the things that is thrown up to him in his trial. But the accompanying material, the things that comes after that fact about earthquakes and wars and nation rising against nation and all kinds of other natural disasters, that material is added by Luke to reflect what is already happening. So at this time in history, there They have experienced the Judean revolt, which would be an example of nation against nation. They have experienced great earthquakes and other natural disasters. So Luke is simply reporting what has already happened. That is the nature of apocalyptic literature. The greatest source of apocalyptic literature is the book of Revelation, which is the last book of the New Testament. And there too, we see that the author is simply reporting what is going on in the middle of the community. Now, Jesus also adds some material regarding the community itself. And he warns that just as he has suffered and died, or just as he will suffer and die, his followers will also be persecuted. His followers will be arrested and thrown into prison. His followers will be executed. His followers will be betrayed by family members, just as he was betrayed by one of his inner circle. Again, this has already happened by the time the gospel is written. The persecution of Nero, the very first of the Roman persecutions, began around the year 76 AD, right around the time of the destruction of the temple. So there have already been examples of how people have suffered at the hands of the Romans. There have already been examples of people who have been betrayed by family members. By putting these words into Jesus' mouth, Luke is saying that Jesus knew this ahead of time. Jesus knew what was going to happen. And that is in itself supposed to be a source of great comfort for these people, to realize that what Jesus underwent will be their fate, and in that they will find their own sense of worth and honor. Now, there's no question about the fact that apocalyptic literature can be scary. I can remember once after Mass on a particular Sunday when I had proclaimed a similar gospel, a mother and her young child came up to me. And the mother knew that what I had been preaching about was part of Catholic faith, but her little boy was scared by what he had heard, and she thought that the best thing would be for him to tell me that he was scared, just to see whether or not I could, in fact, give him a little comfort. Especially for children, this might be difficult to hear and difficult to digest. I can remember myself as a boy in grade school how the sisters would tell us about the last days and how darkness would cover us and we would be in total panic. The important thing to remember here is that just as God did not abandon his Son while he was hanging on a cross, just as God stayed with Jesus and eventually raised him from the dead, God will not abandon us in the last times. God will be with us as we undergo this change in our physical life. If we are still alive when Jesus returns, we can be sure that God will be with those who remain faithful to him. And that, I think, is a source of comfort for all of us. For more information about CUSA, please visit our website at www.cuson.org or look us up on Facebook.